not occurred. As far as the scientific evidence is concerned, as far as the hard facts of science are concerned, every one of these creatures has appeared fully formed. Now, ultimately, the vertebrates supposedly evolved from the invertebrates, and these invertebrates have no ancestors, so we have no ancestors. Now, furthermore, one of these creatures supposedly evolved into a fish, the first vertebrate. Suppose they are vertebrates, internal skeletons, in contrast to these invertebrates. Evolution says it took 100 million years for an invertebrate to evolve into a fish. Why, we'd have billions times billions of those things would have lived and died during that 100 million years. Our museums should have millions upon millions of their fossils. They don't have one. Not even one single fossil of an intermediate between an invertebrate and a vertebrate. The ichthyologists say that every major kind of fish that we know anything about appeared fully formed right at the start. They had their origins firmly based in nothing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the fact. Now, you can believe anything you want to. By faith, you can believe a fish evolved from one of those invertebrates, but you don't have one iota of evidence for it. And ladies and gentlemen, you cannot have 100 million years of evolution and not leave a trace. We ought to have billions of those things, billions times billions, and we don't even have one. Ladies and gentlemen, vertebrates do not have ancestors. We are vertebrates, so we don't have ancestors. Now, you see, that just simply settles the question. Why should we argue about Archaeopteryx? Why should we argue about Australopithecus? The evolutionists themselves argue about that. Here are gaps that are absolutely immense. There's no question about it. There's no dispute. No evolutionist in his right mind would question the statement that there are no ancestors for fishes. And that settles the question. But we could deal with much more of the fossil record. The fact is, I want to prove my point using the evolutionary literature itself. I have an illustration here taken from this book, Confronting Creationism, Defending Darwin, published right here in New South Wales. That book quotes or cites Michael Archer and Clayton, one of their books, as evidence for transition forms among the elephants. And here is the illustration. And they say that this is fossil record of the elephant. Solid vertical lines represent fossil record. Dashed lines, the dashed lines represent phylogenetic interpretations about probable origins of the species. Notice, please notice, ladies and gentlemen, that here are the solid lines, right here. Those are the solid lines. Those are where we have actual fossil remains. What do we have? Parallel existence of these creatures. Notice the transitional form. What do they have? Dotted lines. At every point they have dotted lines. What does that mean? No transitional form. No fossils. Here, from their own mouth, out of their own book, they have proven that they don't have the transition form. They've shot themselves in the foot, is what they've done. And you see this. Here are the solid lines. That's the actual fossils. Notice the dotted lines. That they merely think, they merely believe, they merely imagine that there were transition forms. Look, there are no transition forms. Now that is supposed to be their example. They cited this as an example of evolution between some basic types of creatures. There are no transition forms. There are no fossils there. And so we see, ladies and gentlemen, that they themselves have proven that their case is certainly based upon a house of cards. There's not evidence at all. It's supposition. They believe it, but they don't have the fossils. And that would be true, of course, of all their many other examples. And I think that simply takes care of the fossil record, although we might want to look at a few things about human origins. Could you turn that to maybe have that on, please, Mike? Very quickly, I want to take a quick look at human origins. Here's the Australopithecines, first discovered in 1924 in South Africa. The skull that you see in the lower portion of the slide was the skull discovered by Dr. Louis Leakey and his wife Mary in 1959 in East Africa. Donald Johanson has discovered a series of these creatures, Australopithecus afarensis, in Ethiopia, one of the female about 40% complete. He says she had the jaws, the teeth, the face, and brain of an ape, but she walked upright in the human manner. Lucy gained great fame because she's supposed to be an ape walking erect. And that's what we are taught in our textbooks and what we read every day. But ladies and gentlemen, there are many scientists who do not believe that, and some are evolutionists. Lord Zuckerman, very famous British anatomist, for 15 years had a scientific team that studied these fossils of creatures 1 to 2 million years more recent than Lucy. Therefore, it should be more man-like, you see, more upright, if anything. And Dr. Charles Oxnard, now at the University of Southern California, studied their postcranial skeleton, their foot bone, leg bone, knee joint, pelvis, and all of that. And these scientists, although they're not creationists, have stated that these creatures did not walk upright. They are not intermediate between ape and man, and they certainly are not our ancestors. Now, if you knock this creature out of the family tree of man, there's just not much left. Here's a Piltdown man, discovered in 1912, a few fragments of a jaw and a few fragments of a skull. And for 50 years, he was touted as our ancestors until he was proven to be a hoax by a chemist. Somebody had taken a jawbone of a modern ape, a human skull, had treated them with chemicals to make them look old, had filed the teeth to make them look man-like, planted the bones in the gravel pit, and fooled the world's greatest authorities for nearly 50 years. Because, you see, this is what they had expected to find or wanted to find. Then in 1922, one single tooth was discovered in western Nebraska, brought to the attention of several leading evolutionists. They were very excited by the discovery of this tooth. They believed it had characteristics intermediate between ape and man. And they called this creature Nebraska Man. In 1922, the Illustrated London News published a picture of this Nebraska Man based upon the descriptions of the scientists. We see that here in this slide. On the right, we see Nebraska Man. We see his wife. We see the tools that they were using, all based upon one single tooth. Science is really a fascinating subject, isn't it? Well, a few years later, they discovered some additional remains of this creature. He turned out to be neither an ape-like man nor a man-like ape. He turned out to be a pig. That's right. It was a pig's tooth. Sometimes I'm tempted to say that this might have been the case when evolutionists made a man out of a pig, and the pig made a monkey out of the evolutionist. But in any case, these were good scientists. They were careful scientists. They were honest scientists, but they believed they were seeing something because they wanted to see it, because they, you see, thought they were seeing it. Now here we have Neanderthal man. This is the version of Neanderthal man that stood in our museums for nearly 100 years as primitive subhuman creatures, long-armed, knuckle-dragging, beetle-browed, stoop-shouldered, bow-legged subhumans. It turned out that all these so-called primitive features were pathological. He suffered from arthritis. The reason some of them didn't walk upright, had a bad case of arthritis. Furthermore, they all suffered severely from rickets, which causes the softening of the bones and the malformation. And it turned out that all of these features were simply pathological. This is the modern version of Neanderthal man from the American Museum of Natural History, and you can see that he is indeed Homo sapien. About 30 years ago, a couple of scientists published an article about Neanderthal people, and they said, now really, if you take Neanderthal man, give him a shave and a haircut and a bath, put him in a business suit, place him on the New York subway, no one would take a second look. Well, that was 30 years ago, and of course today you wouldn't have to give him a shave or a haircut, would you? Some circles in San Diego, you wouldn't even have to give him a bath. Well, he wasn't our ancestor, he was man. You see, Piltdown man was not our ancestor, he was a hoax. And Nebraska man was not our ancestor, he's just simply a pig's tooth. Ramapithecus was not our ancestor, turned out to be an orangutan. I think the record here speaks for itself. Now let me, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to challenge Dr. Plimer, any evolutionist, to explain metamorphosis, particularly in the monarch butterfly. That's an incredible process. This next slide, we see the monarch butterfly, and indeed a very beautiful creature. He lays eggs. The egg on the right is developing, and he develops into a caterpillar. He goes through several stages. This is the final stage, and now he decides somehow he wants to become a butterfly. I guess he started out by hang gliding or something, I don't know how. But here's the way he actually does it. He fastens himself to the underside of a limb, and he's curling up now. His head's going up there. He makes one last mold. He's molding that external cover, and he constructs a cocoon and becomes a mass of jelly. And then he programs that mass of jelly to become a butterfly. And we see the butterfly developing, and then finally he emerges from the cocoon, a beautiful butterfly. Now, my challenge to evolutionists is to explain how this process could have developed through a process of natural selection, step by step, through genetic mistakes. You see, we have a caterpillar. He has mouth parts to chew leaves. He crawls. That's his mode of life. Then he becomes a butterfly. Now he has wings. He has a proboscis when he sucks nectar and so forth and so on. How could a caterpillar, step by step, evolve into a butterfly? Would he start shedding some of those legs and sprouting wings or something like that? Well, of course he couldn't survive.